Okay, so we're going to go ahead and call Senate Revenue to order. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Dennis, Senator Ratty, Senator Keycoffer, Senator Severs-Gansert, Chair Neal.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for waiting patiently for us. We will go ahead and open up this bill hearing on Senate Bill 440. And we will call our presenters to the table. Welcome. Yes, sir.
General, you need to push the button for your microphone.
Tess, can you hear me okay? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Committee on Revenue and Economic Development. I am Major General Andre Berry, and on behalf of Governor Sisolak, I thank you for this opportunity to present Senate Bill 440. The governor's proposed bill will amend existing law as well as create a sales tax holiday for certain members of the Nevada National Guard and certain relatives of such members. To assist the committee with any questions, virtually in attendance with me today is Director Melanie Young, Director of the Nevada Department of Taxation, Mr. Kevin Benson, General Counsel to the Office of the Governor, Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Remus, State Judge Advocate to the Nevada National Guard. Existing Nevada law provides an exemption from certain sales and use tax for members of the Nevada National Guard who are called into active overseas service for the period during which the member is deployed. The governor's proposed bill would amend NRS 372.7281 to revise existing language and additionally create a sales tax holiday for members of the National Guard who are residents of Nevada but who have not been called to active duty. This tax holiday will occur over 3 days on the date on which Nevada Day is observed and the following Saturday or Sunday. Purpose: it has been more than 1 year since the COVID-19 pandemic ushered in the largest and lengthiest activation of the Nevada National Guard in its 160-year history. As the virus began to spread rapidly in March of 2020, the Nevada National Guard entered an elevated and unprecedented role in leading the state's emergency response. Nevada National Guardsmen and women immediately volunteered for a variety of missions to include the logistical movement of personal protective equipment to frontline medical personnel, the distribution of food items to our most vulnerable resident populations, and the construction and employment of multiple mass community-based testing sites. Of the about 4,400 total uniformed personnel assigned to the Nevada National Guard, more than 1,400 of its citizen soldiers and airmen, or 1/3 of the force, have been activated in direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, nearly 450 guardsmen and women continue to remain activated and are now additionally facilitating multiple vaccine distribution sites across Nevada. Of significant note, the citizen soldiers and airmen of the Nevada National Guard simultaneously conducted 5 major overseas combat deployments, as well as positioned hundreds of citizen soldiers and airmen to Washington, D.C., standing sentry following the January 6th siege of the United States Capitol. The Nevada National Guard has never been more engaged or visible within our communities. To provide an overview of this proud service to you, here's the Nevada National Guard's COVID-19 response by the numbers. 10 million articles of personal protective equipment distributed to frontline first responders. 2.9 million meals distributed to residents across the state. 860,000 COVID-19 tests conducted. 1.6 million vaccines supported at multiple sites throughout the state. 628,000 vaccines directly administered in the arms of Nevada residents. For one example, Army Specialist Jermaine Longmire, a graduate of Reno High School, took the initiative to learn Paiute and Shoshone greetings to speak with tribal members as they arrived to COVID testing sites. Longmire and other team members of the Nevada National Guard's mobile testing team led 40 COVID-19 collection sites in remote locations across the state. These sites were significant in the state's ability to track, trace, and stop the spread of the virus on tribal lands and in rural Nevada. Not all Nevada Guardsmen responded to the pandemic in their military uniform. Army First Lieutenant Sparkle Houston, a graduate of Cheyenne High School, was one of the first citizen soldiers to engage in the fight against the COVID-19 virus. Houston responded in early March of last year, working as an infectious disease nurse at her civilian job in Clark County. Houston, along with more than 240 Nevada Guardsmen, work full-time as civilian critical care medical professionals such as doctors, nurses, and dental technicians. Members of the Nevada National Guard commit to military duty in a part-time status while balancing civilian employment, family lives, and higher education. Hundreds have been called away from a full-time civilian job to assist the state's COVID-19 pandemic response. The state is indebted to their service before self. Although there will be a small fiscal impact in revenue to the state, there is no denying the indispensable role the Nevada National Guard has played during the state's critical time of need. The governor's bill and the tax holiday it creates over the Nevada Day weekend is a much appreciated token of gratitude to the families of the men and women who have sacrificed so much during this pandemic. Without reservations, these citizen soldiers and airmen from our very own communities will continue to lead Nevada through our recovery and beyond. The Nevada National Guard is always ready, always there. Neighbors helping neighbors. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the members of this committee for this time today. The state representatives and I are ready to answer questions and are happy to walk through the mechanics involved with any section of this bill.
Okay, thank you for that. So we'll just go ahead and go to questions. Members, any questions on the bill? Senator Kekeffer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it. General, thank you so much. Thank you for your service during this time and the service that you and all of your soldiers provided to the people of Nevada. This is one grateful senator, as is my family, and I'm sure we all are. So thank you for that. And my question is actually probably for Ms. Young as to whether the exemption includes the state 2% portion, or is it or does that piece not get waived? I just don't know how that mechanically works based on the constitutional provisions over sales tax.
Thank you, Senator Kekeffer. Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. We would look at this exemption to waive the entire sales and use tax portion of the purchase. And that would include the 2% general fund piece.
Thank you for that. Members, any additional questions? Senator Ratty.
Thank you. And I believe that the answer is probably going to be something similar, but I'm just curious about any sales tax revenues that are obligated to bonds. If they're at the local level, is there anything on this that would risk impinging on the bonds?
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. Thank you, Senator Ratty, for the question. And if I could possibly defer the question to Shelley Hughes, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Shelley Hughes, Chief Deputy for the Department of Taxation. And yes, Senator Ratty, you are correct. It's the same exact answer. It wouldn't have the exemption would apply to everything. And would have an impact on the bonds.
Thank you for that. Any additional questions? Senator Kekeffer.
Thank you. Did not spill my coffee. That's a good thing. And so for the Department of Taxation, again, do you have a current process that you use to evaluate sort of family members for eligibility of waivers? And is that a process that goes smoothly now if it exists? Or is there, how do you determine that, and what do you require in terms of documentation to make sure people aren't sort of gaming the system, in which case we should probably charge them with stolen valor anyway?
Thank you, Senator Kekeffer. Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. Currently, what happens is the service member submits a form to the Department of Taxation signed off by a supervising officer, and that does come in currently through the National Guard itself. And so those are processed on an individual basis, where a tax exempt certificate that is signed off and stamped as a embossed stamp to ensure that it's a valid document presented from the Department of Taxation.
Thank you very much.
Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Neal. So it looks like if someone is out of town, potentially they have 30 days to use the exemption once they return to town, if I'm reading that right. So I'm in section 4, sub 2. I just want to confirm that's right, because we will have members who potentially are out of state or out of the country when this occurs. And then I also wanted to ask about the expiration of this. Is this a one-time exemption, or is this for a longer period? I see that when it becomes effective, but I'm not sure what the termination date is.
Madam Chair, through you to the Senator Gansert, you said it was in section 4,
Section 4, sub 2.
up to?
If you're eligible, so when you return to the United States, you've got 30 days to be able to use it. I just want to confirm that. So if you have members who are out of the state or out of the country and they miss the basically a 2-3 day window, that they have 30 days to be able to use it, is the way that I'm reading that. I just wanted to confirm that.
That is my understanding. I will yield to anybody who will tell me something different.
If I may, my name is Kevin Benson, General Counsel for the Office of the Governor. To clarify a little bit, the language that you're referring to, Senator, is with respect to some cleanup of an existing exemption that only applies to those National Guard members who are deployed overseas. And, obviously it's difficult for them to take advantage of that exemption when they are overseas. And so this is intended as some cleanup language to that existing exemption to allow them to use it 30 days after they return to the United States. So this is a separate section from the exemption for the National Guard members for the Nevada Day holiday.
Thank you. And if I can follow up on that. So we have members who are deployed outside of the state of Nevada, so they're not overseas. So I want to make sure that we capture individuals who are deployed, but this specifically says upon returning to the United States. So I wanted to make sure if they were deployed within the United States but outside of Nevada, they could still use that exemption.
Kevin Benson again for the record. They would be able to use the exemption that we are proposing in this bill for the Nevada Day holiday. The other exemption, as I mentioned, is something that already exists in current law, and we are attempting to clean up by clarifying that those folks who are overseas can use it 30 days after they return.
Thank you. And so I guess I'm still not clear, because you're stating that that's a different exemption. So I want to make sure the exemption that we are contemplating today is still available if they're overseas or actually out of the state and they return. So the one that is proposed in section 1.
Yes, Kevin Benson again for the record. The exemption that we're proposing today would be available to them on the Nevada Day holiday. It would not be available to them 30 days after that holiday. And that is one of the reasons why we also included household members within this exemption, is so that if they are out of the state, as you mentioned, or not available otherwise to take advantage of it, then somebody within their immediate household could use that exemption.
Thank you for that answer. And then my second question was, the effective date is July 1st of 2021. Is this for 1 year? Is this a temporary exemption, or how long is this effective?
Kevin Benson for the record. There's no expiration date currently in the bill as before you. I have had some discussions with committee counsel on potential amendments to add a expiration date of 30 years from now, so that it would comply with Article 10, Section 6 of the Nevada Constitution, which requires a specific expiration date. However, we're open to conversation on what that expiration date would be.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank General and the members of the National Guard for their service. We really appreciate all that you do for us. I should have started with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Dennis.
I just have a quick question. So the procedure for using the exemption is to apply for it 30 days before and you get a letter? And is that what you would take to the business?
Madam Chair, through Senator Dennis, what was the question again? I could not hear you.
I'm just trying to understand the procedure, how they actually use it. Is it that you apply for it 30 days before and then you receive a letter that you would take with you to the business, or how does that work?
Major General Barry, again, yes, you would have to apply for it, and then yes, you would use it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So I just have a couple of questions I'd like to get on the record. The number of individuals that this will apply to, because it stretches not only the active duty, but it includes the family members and family members of a deceased person. So what's the number?
Madam Chair, General Barry, it's approximately 8,800 if you include the dependents and those who are specified in this bill.
Okay, and then in terms of the sales tax, what's the adverse impact of the sales tax loss? The calculation, if it was for the 8,800 and they used it over the period of time and for the length of time that's in the bill up to 2051.
I'm going to have to defer that one.
Department of Taxation.
Thank you, Senator Neal. Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. What we did on just a high-level calculation is we estimated on the worst-case scenario that if the number we have is that there's 4,400 households, and if each one of them purchased a vehicle. So we estimated that purchase of about $40,000 of a vehicle, and we used the highest tax rate, which is Washoe County of 8.265%. The potential impact on an annual basis, if it were every household purchased that vehicle, it would be about $14.5 million. And then over the 30-year period, that number would be about $436.3 million as an estimate, but that is believed to be the absolute worst case scenario, that if every member were to purchase a vehicle every year. We think that is highly unlikely that would probably happen. So just wanted to, if there's any questions about that, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions.
Thank you for that, Director. I just wanted to get that information on the record because I know that the sales tax holiday bill covers everything from car to books. And so everything's in. And so trying to understand what that adverse sales tax impact is. So if you've estimated highest best used 14.5 million per year and then 436 million at the end of the 30 years. So I know I had a conversation with Attorney Benson about the 30-year time limit and really trying to scale that back, try to make it tied to the pandemic relationship so that the sunset had a rational relationship to the purpose, which is pandemic and virus. And so I'm definitely want to, in short order, because we don't have a lot of time, have that conversation about reducing that impact because 436 million is significant and it is a great impact. And so I just know that the sunset provision needs to be dealt with in order to limit and scale this to a sales tax impact that actually can be manageable. If even at that 14.5 per year at 5 years, that's still significant. But I will leave it there. I just wanted to get some clear things on the record. The number the dollar amount and what we were talking about in regards to Article 10, Section 6. All right, Senator Ratty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure that I really understood that number. So the 14.5 million per year, did you say that that's the worst-case scenario, and that assumption is based on every member applying, getting the piece of paper, buying a car every year? That what you said?
Thank you, Senator Ratty. Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. Yes, we believe that it would be highly unlikely that every member would go in and purchase a vehicle every year over the period of the 30 years. So what we did is we researched the average cost of a new vehicle, and that it was about $38,723. So we figured estimating $40,000 to give that worst case scenario of $14.5 million. We do believe that it would likely be more in the range of that the service members would be saving up their money to maybe purchase a refrigerator or a larger item such as that during this period of time. And so there is another estimate of about $1,500 maybe that if they were to purchase a large appliance, still using the highest tax rate in the state of Nevada, which is Washoe County's of the 8.2365. If it was only a $1,500 refrigerator, that cost would be $545,000 a year. And so, this number, depending on who uses it and what they're using to purchase, it is likely that some cars would be purchased, but I wouldn't imagine that they would purchase them every year.
Thank you, Ms. Young. So if I'm going to say that back, because it's highly unpredictable how many folks will use it and what they will use it for, our range is somewhere between $540,000 a year to $14.5 million a year, because we really just don't know. I guess my question is, I have a vague recollection that we did some sales tax holidays for teachers at one point. Do we have any data from prior sales tax holidays that we've done that might put a little tighter box around that?
Thank you, Melanie Young, Executive Director for the Nevada Department of Taxation. Unfortunately, we do not have that information because the taxpayer, when they submit their tax return to us, they would encompass any exempt sales as a total number on that tax form. And we are not certain if that tax form was for just a regular exempt sale to a business who was going to use that product in their production of theirs, or if it was associated with that sales tax holiday. That information was not separately delineated.
Okay, but fair to say if we see a bump over the Nevada Day holiday a couple of years, we're going to get a sense of how much it costs.
Melanie Young, Executive Director for the record, I would agree with that statement. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, members, Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And just for a clarification on first degree of consanguinity, that would be the individuals themselves and their children, or is that the individuals themselves and their parents? Can I just get a confirmation on that?
This is Kevin Benson for the record. Yes, that is correct.
So I gave you two options. It's individuals and their children, or individuals, children, and parents. Thank you.
My apologies, Senator. It's both.
So first degree.
First degree of consanguinity.
Okay, go ahead.
First degree of consanguinity would include all of those immediate family members, including both parents and children.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Ratty.
Now I'm curious, does it include spouses?
It should. I believe there's a whole collection.
Kevin Benson for the record again. Yes, it would include spouses as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So, any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, then we will go to support in the room for SB 440. And then we will go to anyone who is signed in online for support. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Nick Vanderpool with Capital Partners today here on behalf of the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. In support of Senate Bill 440, the Reno Sparks Chamber supports the concept of giving a day to honor those who serve in the Nevada National Guard, especially the service during the pandemic outlined by the General. This is an excellent concept, and we thank you and those who serve the great state of Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you for that. BPS, any callers online for support?
To testify in support of SB 440, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 505. Please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Committee on Revenue and Economic Development. For the record, my name is Peter Druzman, President of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. When Governor Sisolak announced the activation of the Nevada National Guard, leading one of the largest missions in our state's history, I knew we would defeat this virus. It gave us all hope when we needed it most. So first, let me extend a sincere token of appreciation to the more than 1,400 men and women who selflessly stepped up to help our state during a very difficult and challenging time. From setting up critical infrastructure, supporting and administrating vaccines, to delivering meals, the Nevada National Guard epitomizes community and defines battle born. This proposed tax holiday over the Nevada Day weekend will serve as a constant reminder that we appreciate their service and sacrifices, not just during the pandemic, but all the time. It will serve as a reminder that we are here for them as they were here for all of us. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, and thank you, Governor Sisolak and Major General Berry, for pushing this important measure forward. The Latin Chamber of Commerce is proud to support our Nevada National Guard and this bill, and we encourage its passage. Thank you.
Thank you for that. BPS, I believe we have some folks on Zoom. I want to catch them for support before we continue on the phone line. So is it Mr. Remus? Who's on for support on Zoom?
And this is Lieutenant Colonel Remus. I was just here to assist Mr. Benson and General Berry if any questions came up related to military status.
Oh, okay. I think we skipped right over that and went to the money. So, anyone else on Zoom in support? Okay, so we'll go back to the phone lines.
Thank you, Chair Neal. Caller with the last 3 digits, 747. Please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin.
Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Andrew Lepilbit, last name Lepeielbet, and I represent the combat wounded veterans of the Purple Heart in the state of Nevada, the 65,000 disabled American veterans in the state of Nevada, and I am the current chair of the United Veterans Legislative Council. In these groups, we fully support the passing of this bill. It's the right thing to do for all we've asked of our Guard in this state and continue to ask of them with foreign deployments as well in foreign lands. So we support the governor and General Berry on this bill, and thank you very much for hearing our testimony.
If there are any other callers wishing to voice support for SB 440, please press star 9 now. Thank you, Chair. There are no other callers wishing to voice support at this time.
Okay, so we will go to opposition.
If I may, Chair, my apologies. This is Kevin Benson for the record. I believe that we have someone wishing to testify in support who is waiting to be admitted to the Zoom call.
Do you know what their numbers, last set of numbers are?
I believe they're waiting to be admitted to the video on the Zoom.
BPS, if they're on the phone line, we could also take them, but BPS, do you see anybody in the waiting room?
Chair Neal, this is BPS. We don't currently have anyone in our waiting room for the video call.
So, Mr. Vincent, can they call in and then we just get their last three?
I will ask them to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. All right, so we will circle back when they get on. So, BPS, is anyone in the room in opposition? Okay, so we will go to phone lines for opposition for SB 440.
If you would like to voice opposition to SB 440, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 166. Please state and spell your name for the record. You may begin.
Barry Duncan, BarrydunCan. Chair Neal and members of the committee, Barry Duncan on behalf of the Nevada Taxpayers Association. Our concern relative to SB 440 is not with the policy of providing a sales tax exemption for Nevada Guard members, but rather legal precedent and consideration for future exemptions. While we understand SB 440 is based upon existing statutory language, our focus pertains to the 2% state portion. Under Article 19 of the Nevada Constitution, a law approved by referendum can only be amended by a vote of the people. As the sales and use tax was approved by referendum, it can be modified by referendum. While we recognize that Article 10, Section 6 of the Constitution, as referenced in the proposed amendment online, allows the legislature to enact an exemption to the sales and use tax when certain conditions are met. It is our belief that any exemption of the 2% portion of the sales and use tax, as established in Chapter 372, must be approved by voters. Conversely, we believe that Article 10, Section 6 permits an exemption to the sales and use tax for the total combined rate, with exception of the state's 2% as set forth in Chapter 372. With all that said, we would like to take this opportunity to thank the Nevada National Guard members and their families for their service and commitment to the state. We appreciate your time and consideration today. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Callers, if you are just
Go ahead.
Callers, if you're just joining us, we are on opposition for SB 440. To take your place in the queue to voice opposition to SB 440, please press star 9 now. Thank you, Chair. There are no other callers wishing to voice opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. So we will move to neutral in the room. So we have a person in neutral inside of the room. And then we'll go to the phone.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Senate Committee on Revenue. My name is Brian Wachter, Senior Vice President of the Retail Association of Nevada, BRYANWACHTER. We too would like to thank the National Guard for all their help. From the Retail Association side, they were a strong partner in making sure that we had our ability to get our employees with PPE, and then as we've moved into the vaccination realm, making sure that our vaccination clinics and the retail centers that are doing those vaccines are running as effectively as possible, and so we greatly appreciate that. In the spirit of the bill, we would actually encourage an additional amendment to include all frontline essential workers. As you know, our retail clerks have been working since the pandemic, since March of 2020. Our corporations and the companies they work for have spent billions of dollars increasing pay, increasing salaries, providing bonuses. And we feel that if the intent of this bill is to recognize those who went above and beyond in helping us during the COVID situation, that we believe that some of the other frontline workers deserve to be included in that conversation. We are neutral, however, on the bill because, like the Taxpayers Association, we share concerns about how Section 10, subsection 6 of the Nevada Constitution goes hand in hand with Article 19, subsection 1, sub 3. Specifically, as mentioned, whether or not the legislature is empowered to remove or exempt the 2% tax. We believe that it is not. We're looking back at the legislative history in 2005 and 2007 when subsection 6 of Article 10 was put into the Constitution. It was pretty clear, and most of the conversation was about a bifurcated system. We believe that Article 10, Section 6 definitely gives you the ability to remove and exempt all of the sales tax except that 2%. But the good news is we believe that there's a way to go ahead and make the bill constitutional, and that would be in an immediate solution, exempting all but the 2%. The other thing that the amendment seeks to clarify, but we believe needs a little bit more work, is that bona fide reading and the findings. The Article 10, subsection 6 requires that finding by the legislature. And in order to do that, we feel, and this legislature has done it before, some whereas statements. The general made some excellent comments as to why this is important and provides a bona fide benefit to the state. And so we would recommend some whereas statements that kind of clarify what those findings and that bona fide reason are. And then, of course, we would share your concerns, Chair Neal, on the 30-year exemption, and would hope that the legislature would take another look at this before those 30 years. In order to get to the 2%, Article 10, subsection 6 does allow the legislature, this right now, to pass a bill both in the Senate and in the Assembly and immediately put it on the ballot to request that 2% exemption from the people in order to satisfy Article 19, Section 1, sub 3. And so we would recommend that those two steps be taken and then look at recognizing some of our other frontline workers. And with that, we thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. All right, so we will go to the phone lines in neutral.
If you would like to offer neutral testimony to SB 440, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once more, that is star 9 now to offer neutral testimony to SB 440. Thank you, Chair Neal. There are no callers wishing to offer neutral testimony at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. So we will, Senator Ratty?
Thank you. I just wanted to make one quick comment to close this out. So again, I want to express my gratitude to the Guard that has just done a phenomenal job in responding to the pandemic. I was lucky enough to be working at the Health District when it first started, and I can tell you in the early days of the pandemic, if we hadn't had the Guard, there's no way that as a community we could have responded. And those roles just kept getting more and more and expanded in the number of people and the number of duties, and they just always stepped up and said, yeah, what else can we do? What else can we do? So again, just wanting to express gratitude for the work that was done.
Okay, thank you for that. So closing comments? Yeah, do you have any closing? I was like, I could just.
Madam Chair, and to the members of the committee, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. I really, really appreciate the fact that you heard the bill and gives us a chance to really talk about what the Nevada National Guard has done for the state, and the men and women love to serve. And it got a chance for us to show the goodwill that the Guard brings and the value that they can add not just through the pandemic, but also being deployed overseas. One of the things that I didn't have a chance to talk about is the fact that if this is passed, this is also a big asset to us in terms of recruiting. one of the things we've worked very hard is this state has the potential, when I talk about this state, the Nevada Military Department has the potential to really grow and expand. On a regular basis, I'm back east talking to the leadership for the Chief of the National Guard Bureau, Director of the Air Guard, Director of the Army Guard, about the capacity to grow our force structure in this state. We can recruit to pretty much any mission. So when we have a chance to have more offerings to the men and women that are thinking about joining the National Guard, it is an advantage to us to be able to say, and here's something that this great state is willing to do for you. So when you talk about us being a primary reserve for the Army and the Air Force, us being able to not only fight and win and the wars overseas, but also the homeland and our state partnerships. When you talk about what we're able to do, in state, and not just with the pandemic, but with wildfires and floods, and able to assist the different entities, this is a big value add to us. And so as you go through and consider and talk about, I just ask you to keep in mind that we are looking to grow as a state. The Nevada National Guard has never been more positioned to grow as an organization than it is right now. And in terms of recruiting, right now, we are in the top 5 in the Air and the Army Guard. I would just love to be able to continue to have the young men and women of this state that want to serve to say that this is another thing that this state is doing, willing to do, to say thank you. So I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the chance to present. And I'll just tell you, the Nevada National Guard, always ready, always there. Thank you.
I just got to pull up that text.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Hadley, it was their public comment and support that was initially on, but couldn't get through. Mr. Hadley?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I'm Mike Hadley. I'm with the National Guard Association.
Go ahead.
So Madam Chair and members of the committee, I want to thank you for the opportunity to represent the National Guard Association of the United States, better known as NAUGUS. I'm Mike Hadley, the Vice President for Government Affairs at NAUGUS and a retired Guardsman. NAUGUS is the nation's oldest military service organization. So since its inception in 1878, NAUGUS's primary mission has been advocacy for the soldiers and airmen of the National Guard. Every time that we ask a Guardsman to put themselves into harm's way, whether it's overseas or at home, we want to make sure that they have an unfair advantage in terms of equipment, training, and policies that take care of our Guardsmen and their families. So on behalf of NAUGUS, it's my pleasure to support and endorse SB 440, the sales tax holiday weekend for members of the Nevada National Guard and their families. So the nation asks a lot of our Guardsmen every day, and our Guardsmen ask very little in return. Over the last year, Guardsmen have participated in a multitude of missions, including overseas operations, COVID-19 support, firefighting, hurricane response, and civil unrest. Nevada Guardsmen have participated in many of those missions, as General Berry has indicated. SB 440 is an innovative way for the state to say thank you to the Nevada Guardsmen who have done so much for the nation, the state, as well as their communities. Please know that these measures, such as SB 440, are not unprecedented. We've seen many other states in recent years also find creative ways to show their appreciation. Some of those include reduced DMV fees, income tax exemption for retiree pensions, in-state tuition assistance, free or reduced hunting and fishing licenses, as well as licensure parity for military occupations to civil trades. SB 440, as well as the aforementioned initiatives, are greatly appreciated by our Guardsmen and go a long way in enhancing morale and providing overall satisfaction with their service. Again, I want to thank you on behalf of NAUGUS for what the state of Nevada is trying to do with this legislation and for their Guardsmen. Please know that it is much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Secretary. Just make sure that goes into support. All right, so we will go ahead and adjourn Senate Revenue. Members, we're probably going to try to have a meeting tomorrow and do a work session on the two bills. Since the rules are suspended, I'll talk to a majority leader. We are adjourned.